A single hammer blow, enough to seal a coffin and forge a monster. But that is the end of the tale, and every legend deserves to be told from the beginning.
For this is not a tale of heroes.
And tonight, they hunger for the story of a throne built on envy and a crown paid for in a brother's blood. Tonight, we listen to the first echo of betrayal.
In the golden age of Egypt, when the gods walked among mortals, the land knew a peace as fertile as the black soil of the Nile. This was the kingdom of Osiris, a realm of light, of order, of gentle growth. But every kingdom casts a shadow, and in the vast, burning desert that bordered this paradise, a different kind of power festered, a power of strength, of chaos, of brutal honesty, the power of his brother.
My brother, Osiris, was the Nile, fertile, gentle, predictable. The people loved him for it. They knelt and praised his green fields and his calm, life-giving waters. My kingdom was the desert, the vast, unforgiving, and beautiful sea of sand, a realm where only the strong survive, where truth is stripped bare by the scorching wind. The people feared me for it. They prayed for my storms of red dust to stay far from their precious, fragile crops. They celebrated the river that fed them and cursed the desert that tested them. They failed to see a simple truth. A wall is only as strong as the savage wilderness it holds back.
While Osiris taught the arts of civilization, music, and agriculture, Set taught the art of war. While Osiris built cities of shining marble, Set fortified the borders, hunting the serpents of chaos that slithered from the primordial darkness. Osiris was the beloved king, a vision of serenity. Set was the necessary monster, the brutish guard dog locked outside the palace walls, whose snarls kept the true wolves at bay.
Every night, when the sun god Ra sailed his barge into the underworld, it was I who stood at the prow. It was my spear that pierced the heart of the great serpent Apep, the embodiment of chaos. I stared into the endless abyss night after night, the sole shield between creation and oblivion. My reward? To return to a court that would toast my brother's latest harvest. They would sing hymns of his benevolent wisdom. The silence that followed my name was louder than any battle cry I had ever uttered. Did they think the serpents of the void were slain with diplomacy? Did they believe the borders of our perfect kingdom were held up by poetry and hymns? The resentment in Set's heart was a slow-growing poison. He saw his brother's reign not as peaceful, but as stagnant. He saw his gentleness not as a virtue, but as a weakness that invited corruption. The breaking point was not a single storm, but a slow, suffocating drought of respect, a constant reminder that his power, the very power that protected them all, was deemed too ugly, too savage for their civilized world. It was the grand festival that sealed his fate, a celebration of Osiris's reign. I watched him from the shadows of the great hall, draped in white linen, a faint, beatific smile on his face as the mortals praised him, adored even by my own wife, Nephthys. He had everything. Not because he had earned it with strength, but because he simply was. He was the embodiment of their comfortable, predictable peace. A peace I found suffocating. A peace built on my violence, but ignorant of it. I decided then that Egypt needed a ruler of true power. A king forged in the heart of a storm, not grown in the soft mud of the riverbank. The desert would reclaim its throne.
And so the plan was forged, not with the brute force of a warrior, but with the cunning of a predator. Set, the god of chaos, would use order as his weapon. He secretly measured his brother's shadow as he slept. He commissioned the finest artisans to build a chest of exquisite cedar and ebony, inlaid with gold and lapis lazuli, a treasure fit for a king, a coffin measured for a god.
They called it a gift. I called it a vessel of transformation. Every carving, every jewel I placed upon it was a prayer to a new Egypt, an Egypt ruled by strength. I watched the artisans work, their hands soft, their minds simple. They saw a beautiful box. I saw the womb from which my kingdom would be born. It was the most perfect thing I had ever created, a masterpiece of ambition. The night of the banquet arrived. The air was thick with wine and laughter. Set unveiled his creation, and the gods gasped at its beauty. He declared it a prize, a gift to whichever god could fit perfectly within its confines. The fools. One by one they tried, too tall, too short, too broad. Their laughter echoed in the hall, a chorus of ignorance. Then Osiris. He approached the chest, not with the suspicion of a king, but with the naive curiosity of a child. He looked at me, and he smiled. That serene, benevolent, infuriating smile. He saw a game. I saw a coronation. And in that moment of silence, as a king lay in his future tomb, and in that moment of absolute silence, you feel the surge, the cold, thrilling certainty of destiny. The universe holds its breath. You do not hesitate. You slam the heavy lid shut. The sound cracks through the hall like thunder. You drive the nails of lead home, each hammer blow a beat in the new, savage heart of Egypt. The screams from within are not the sounds of murder. They are the birth pangs of your kingdom. My followers and I lifted the chest. The music had stopped. The gods stared, frozen in horror. Good. Let them see what true power looked like. We carried him to the banks of the Nile, his sacred river, and cast him in. I watched it sink beneath the waters, a golden scar on the face of the river. As the last bubble rose to the surface, I felt the shift. The weight of the crown settling upon my brow. I was no longer the shadow. I was the storm itself. Set seized the throne. The storms of the desert swept through the palace, and a new age of iron and fear began. But he had forgotten the power of a love more stubborn than a god's ambition. Isis, the wife of Osiris, would not let the echo of her husband fade. She searched the length of the Nile, found the chest, and with her formidable magic, conceived a son from the fallen king, an heir, a seed of vengeance named Horus.
I ruled as I was meant to rule, with strength, with absolute power. Egypt was strong under my command. The borders were secure, the weak were culled. But the whispers never ceased. The cult of my dead brother grew in the shadows, a disease in the heart of my kingdom. And then the rumors of the boy, Horus, the son, the heir of the fallen king, hidden away, nurtured by his mother's magic, with my brother's infuriating light in his eyes, a ghost come back to haunt me.
When Horus came of age, he challenged Set for the throne. The war that followed was not merely for a crown, it was a war for the soul of Egypt itself. The chaotic strength of the desert against the ordered civilization of the Nile. A brutal conflict that would rage for 80 years, tearing the heavens and the earth asunder.
Imagine the final battle. You are no longer a subtle schemer. You are a god of pure rage. You transform into a great black boar, a hurricane of muscle and tusk. You tear the eye from Horus's face, a prize of flesh and light. But in his own fury, he strikes back, and you feel a pain that shatters your divine pride. A wound that will forever mark you as something less than whole.
80 years. 80 years of war to hold what I had taken in a single night. In the end, the Pantheon, the same gods who praised my brother's weakness, sat in judgment. They named Horus king. Of course they did. They chose the light. They always choose the light. I was cast out, exiled to the deserts that had always been my only true home.
They call me a monster, the usurper, the first murderer, the king of wastelands. Perhaps I am, but look upon the pyramids, look upon the temples that have stood for millennia. They were built in an empire forged by order, but protected by the savage strength they so desperately tried to tame. I am the shadow that allows their light to shine. I am the storm that makes them appreciate the calm. I am the necessary evil, and every kingdom needs its shadow. The tale has been told. Now carry the embers.
The echo of the Shadow King is a heavy one, but it is not the only tale hungry for an audience tonight. If your spirit seeks the wisdom of the stars, let the echo of Ilana guide your path next. But if your heart still yearns for the clash of steel and the shadows of the earth, another legend of this realm awaits. Choose your path, traveler. The fire is still burning, and the echoes are waiting you.